Hello everyone, we are live now. Over to you, UC.
Thank you, Tetsa. 皆様、本日はご参加いただきありがとうございます。本日のセミナーは YouTube での同時配信となっております。そのため、参加者の皆様はミュートにさせていただいております。ご質問がある場合は、Zoom のチャットボックスにお願いいたします。また、プレゼンテーションの最後の質問時間でお答えさせていただきますので、どうぞお気軽にチャットボックスなどにご質問をプレゼンテーションの途中でもご投稿いただければ最後にお答えさせていただきます。セントアンドリュース大学のご紹介なんですが、こちらは1413年からあるオックスフォードやケンブリッジ大学とも同列に並ぶイギリストップの名門校です。イギリス王室のウィリアム王子やあとキャサリン妃が学んだ学校としても知られています。特に政治学、国際関係学部が人気で、紛争や人権、国際安全保障、テロなどの国際関係学の主要テーマも幅広く学べます。また、地域研究、例えば中東や中央アジアなどに特化したコースもございます。また、卒業生は国際機関や各国の政府機関、チャリティー団体などに就職しています。それでは本日はキャサリン・ジョーンズ先生にプレゼンテーションをしていただきます。Hi, Catherine. Are you ready?
I'm all ready. Thank you very much. Good evening to everybody in Japan, and thank you and hello to everybody around the world who has helped to make this possible today. Greetings also, good morning to my colleague Scott Wilson, who is also joining me and will be able to answer any technical questions you have about the application process at the end of my talk. So I'm Dr. Kath Jones, and I'm delighted to be here, at least online, with you today. What I'm going to do is introduce you to what it's like studying international relations at St Andrews, why we think that it is an outstanding place to study, and all of the potential opportunities that you would have if you came to join us in the school. My personal research explores how East Asian states engage with international organizations, particularly, for example, how China engages with the United Nations. I've recently published a book on China-North Korea relations and a couple of papers on how China implements sanctions against North Korea. And these topics I know are of particular interest to people and students in Japan. I was lucky enough to explore some of this research with some colleagues in Japan over the last few years. And I published this special issue of a journal with some professors at different institutions across Japan just last year, looking at how Japan contributes to humanitarian assistance and disaster relief across the whole of the East Asian region. So I am particularly delighted to be able to speak to you and tell you all about the enjoyable teaching and research that we undertake in the School of IR. So there we go. So in today's presentation, I'm going to introduce you to what international relations is. And I'm going to particularly ask you all a question about what you think international relations is, because I want to make sure that what you want to teach, what you want to be taught, is something that we offer at St Andrews, and that you've got the possibility to study what you would really enjoy. And as one of my friends told me when I said, well, I look at international security, and they say, oh, how is it working in an airport? And I want to make sure that we're not introducing you to a topic that you think is completely outside of what you want to study and would enjoy. And to do that, I'm going to use a online tool that should allow you to contribute your ideas about what international relations is. So I'd just like you to begin to think about 3 words you think are related to that term, international relations. And I will tell you how to put forward those points in one moment, and I'll give you extra time to complete that. I'm then going to tell you what international relations is and how it is taught in St Andrews. And then I'm going to give you a brief example from my own teaching. In fact, something that I will be teaching next week for my MLit students. And finally, I'm going to try and leave enough time so that we can have some really interesting discussion around questions that you might have about international relations in St Andrews. So the technology in this presentation, one of the things that I wanted to make sure of was that whether you are joining us on YouTube or Zoom, you should be able to participate equally in terms of what I'm saying. So I'm going to use some questions that I've set up on menti.com. So if you're on a telephone, if you are on a computer or a tablet, you should be able to find menti.com. You don't need to download anything. You do not need to log in. You will just need to enter the code 66297309, and it will take you to a page where you can answer the first question that I have lined up for you. And when we get to that slide, you should be able to see your contributions dynamically appear on the screen on my slide, if everything is working with the technology today. Your contributions will be anonymous, so you don't need to worry that something might appear and be traced back to you. That's not going to happen. Your contributions are going to be anonymous. Nothing will be saved on that slide either, so you don't need to worry that it's going to be hanging around. So one of the biggest questions is, why should I want to come and study at St Andrews at all? Well, I think one of the main reasons is, for a start, we have an outstanding School of International Relations, an incredible range of programs and opportunities for what to study within the School of IR. But within the broader university, St Andrews is a highly ranked institution, steeped in a tradition, but with a global outlook. It offers a very flexible degree structure in a historic, safe, and welcoming setting. And you might want to put aside some of your assumptions about how much it rains in St Andrews, because we've managed to find you a picture where there's definitely blue sky and sunshine. And it is probably one of the driest and warmest parts of Scotland. We haven't just got an incredible history to show off and an incredible range of staff and modules. We're also extremely well ranked in the league tables. So we came first in Scotland in the Guardian University Guide. We've come first in the National Student Survey, 96th in the world on the QS World Rankings. And as a symbol of our excellence in teaching and the quality of the teaching that you should experience at St Andrews, we received a UK Gold Award under the Teaching Excellence Framework. So here is this slide. If you go to menti.com, the code is 66297309, and input your words. Hopefully these are going to begin to appear on my screen in front of me. Dun, 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 dun. So it may be taking a little while for the online system to catch up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that to be populated, and then we'll come back to that slide in a few moments' time, and hopefully we will have some of the words popping up on that screen. So what does the School of International Relations teach? So our undergraduate level is spread over 4 years, and we have sub-honours teaching and honours teaching. And for the School of IR, sub-honours teaching means that all of our IR students are introduced to the same 4 modules. And these provide your foundation for all of the international relations work that you will do in years 3 and 4. So you'll be all together in a large lecture being taught those foundational modules. And they still, even though they're foundational, it doesn't mean they're boring. Some of the things I contribute to that sub-honours teaching are things like Chinese foreign policy. I look at how rising states engage with international institutions and shape our understanding of what international relations is. So even though they are the foundations, they are the building blocks of what you will go on to achieve later on in your program, it doesn't mean they're boring. You'll be taught via a big lecture, but also small group teaching to support and augment what you've been told in those lectures. And you'll also be expected to undertake independent learning through a range of reading list activities, but you may also be asked to do some small preparatory work in terms of group work or an individual presentation. But all of that will vary slightly on who is teaching you in your small groups. At honours level, we have a huge, diverse range of modules available for you to choose. And these are linked directly to staff members' research. And I'm going to give you an example of one of those later when I talk about my own teaching. Those honours modules are much smaller groups. You get much more intensive and direct engagement with your tutors and with faculty. And so that you can really develop an in-depth and detailed knowledge of some specific topics. At the postgraduate level, we offer a range of different programs, and I've just listed the ones that are currently available just down there. So international political theory, strategic studies, international security studies, the Middle East, Caucasus and Central Asian studies, and terrorism and political violence. We've also got a new MLIT program on peace building and mediation. And you can get full details of those modules and those programs from that link that's just below on that slide. Within those modules, in the first semester, so in the first 6 months approximately of your course, you will be taking core modules that are fundamental to each of these different approaches. In the second semester, you will take your choice of modules from, again, a wide range of modules, but these will be in even smaller groups when you are taught. And I'll give you another example of my own teaching related to international security studies later on in this presentation. And finally, for those MLIT programs, you then go on to write a dissertation or a research-led piece of work where you will work with a supervisor in order to develop a research project in your research interests and develop that over an extended period to produce a long project on a topic of particular interest to you that is related to your program of study. So studying at St Andrews, I've already mentioned at undergraduate level, you'll be taught via a lecture. In the first year, this is 3 lectures for all of our first year modules in IR. And then you will have one group of a tutorial group to discuss those ideas in more depth, to explore the readings that you will have done in advance of that discussion, and to develop a greater understanding of the thoughts and concepts that are involved. In the first year, that involves looking at foreign policies of different states. In the second year, you look at the theories that you can use to better understand the world and then apply them to different cases. At the honours module level, 2 of the examples of the different types of modules that I personally teach. In third year, I teach a module on hot economics, cold politics, the international relations of Northeast Asia. Within that module, we look at how China engages with the region. We look at Japan and the US as allies. We explore the security problem of North Korea. We look at how South Korea engages with these different problems. And importantly, we make questions about, is there an East Asian approach to understanding the world? Should we be looking for Japanese theories or Chinese theories of international relations that better capture the experience of states in the region? In assessing that module, We use a couple of different essays, but I also use a simulation. And I get students to play out a crisis scenario. A crisis hits East Asia. Each of the different student teams is a different country within the region. And you need to come up with and propose policies and ways to approach dealing with that crisis. And you can choose to work with other states. You can choose to work unilaterally. You have a range of tools that you can deploy. And it's a way of getting you to experience more than just understanding what's in the readings, but to actually experience the challenges that different leaders and different actors within crisis responses face. One of my fourth year modules at undergraduate level looks at politics and development in Southeast Asia. And we explore approaches, for example, the developmental state, to consider how important is and central is the role of the state within the development of the states in the region. And we look at Singapore, Indonesia, the Philippines, and Vietnam. And again, we try and build a picture of the region that is informed by the ideas and thinking within the region. And that module tries to encourage every student to think critically, but also to develop their own research agenda around those different topics. How would you go out and explore these particular questions? How would you approach answering them? And so those are a couple of examples of my teaching throughout the undergraduate program in St Andrews. They are specific to my teaching, and each of my colleagues will have a slightly different approach that best suits the module that they are teaching and the type of research that they do. So you will have, certainly at honours level, you will experience a wide range of different approaches to how you're going to be assessed, the types of topics that you might want to explore, and ideas that you're going to come across. But underpinning all of that work and all of that teaching is that you will be learning independently. You will have a lot of support from the various different academics across the school to produce independent study. Sometimes you'll be asked to do group work outside of class time, and you will be assessed through both continuous assessments and exams. At the postgraduate level, my teaching is largely related to the International Security Studies program, but I also teach students from, for example, political theory, international political theory, and from strategic studies. And my teaching for the MLit program is focused in the second semester. So I teach a course called Security and Development in East Asia. It's taught not with lectures. We have a 2-hour seminar once a week. So this is a big difference from the undergraduate level. And I also provide some extra activities for students to engage with. For example, next week we are doing a simulation in that program to explore one of the security challenges in the region. And I get students to think in a slightly different way about these problems and these approaches. So you would be expected to complete a critical book review, a policy paper, a research essay, and an exam. And the whole approach of the module and the assessment is so that when you graduate, you have all of the tools and the equipment to be able to demonstrate that you can do a job in this area that you really want. So this week, as it happens, the topic I'm teaching on Monday is about understanding North Korea. The central question in that module is this a security or development challenge? And so I've asked the students to read about 5 or 6 papers in advance of the module that present a range of different views on North Korea. And I've given them these 3 questions to explore. The first question gets at that one of those central issues around how would you research somewhere like North Korea? It's one of the most secretive states in the world. What types of evidence could we use? How valuable are those sources of evidence? One of the valuable sources of evidence that I explore with the students is Japan is incredibly detailed and diligent at reporting sanctions violations that they have uncovered in relation to North Korea. So one place you can go to for evidence are Japan's reports to the UN on those sanctions violations. But that only gives us a tiny piece of the puzzle, because most of the goods that are traveling into North Korea are not traveling via sea routes that Japan would be able to stop. Instead, we understand that quite a lot of the goods going into North Korea come in through China or through air transit. So how would we understand what's going in through those other routes? What kinds of approaches could we use? One of those approaches is to look at, for example, satellite photos of how many goods are moving across the border between China and North Korea. And that again gives us one piece of the puzzle, but it doesn't tell us everything. So this week, when I'm teaching North Korea, I will be asking the students, okay, you're interested in answering this question, but how would you go about answering it? Where would you get your pieces of the puzzle to be able to fill in what you understand to be happening in North Korea? This week, I've got a student doing a presentation on the second question. China and North Korea, are they as close as lips and teeth, or are they uncomfortable allies? So that student's going to do a very short 10-minute presentation, and then we're going to have some questions and answers and discuss how they came up with their argument in relation to that question. How would they develop it further? And then at the end of the seminar, we'll have a shorter discussion about the third question. How does South Korea approach relations with the North, and how does that affect their relations, South Korea's relations with both the United States and Japan? So that's one 2-hour session. It's an intensive discussion about a particular part of the whole whole module program. And each week we'll have different topics that we come across. So that overall, at the end of the module, you should have this depth of experience and understanding and be able to present your work, but also consider limitations and problems and how to overcome them. So I mentioned previously that all teaching in the School of IR is research-led. So I've given you examples from my own work where I've done a piece of research related to North Korea, and then I've directly applied that to what and how I teach. The school is comprised of faculty members with outstanding research achievements. And we all aim to provide research-led teaching in innovative and interesting ways that engage all of our students. Now, that does mean that the modules we offer can vary across different years. They need to match with new staff members who arrive, but also new research interests of staff members. So you would need to look each year at the different modules that are available, and you will get a choice of what you want to do within those selections. In addition to the direct teaching that you would be involved with, we also have a vibrant research community. That's one of the things that makes our teaching so good is that it applies the cutting edge research that we are all doing within the school. And this is of particular importance for any of you looking at our postgraduate programs. As a member of the school, you would therefore be welcome and encouraged to join faculty and other students at weekly research seminars, and examples of those you can see on the school website. You'd be encouraged or enabled to contribute to research through the undergraduate research studentship program, and you can participate in other ongoing research projects So in the last few years, I've had students help me on different projects, and we've either co-authored a paper together, or we've worked together in some other way so that their contribution to the research is recognized. So that research space gives you this incredible opportunity, not only to engage with faculty, but also to develop your own skills going forwards. Oh, and I should also say we have a number of different research centres within the school, including, for example, peace and conflict studies, the study of religion and politics, terrorism and political violence, and a range of others, all of which you can find details of and the ongoing research related to those on the school website. And one final point is that we've got incredible career prospects for our graduates. They all go on to do interesting and informative things. And we've got dedicated careers service to help you to do that, employability workshops, and various different approaches to facilitating you to get a job at the end. So I'm just going to go back to my previous slide and just see if we've populated it with, there we go. So we might find that there are a few more things that pop up on this as I just freeze on this slide for one moment. But yes, international relations is absolutely relations between states. One part of international relations is focused on making the world a better place. But as you will see, if you come and study with us, that's quite a difficult thing to achieve. And even just holding the world in the current state can be quite difficult, so not making it worse. But a number of my colleagues explore, how would I make this world better? And they can do that through, for example, looking at development opportunities. They look at that through, how do they build a more peaceful world? How do they make the world more just? So there are a number of different approaches, even in that short phrase, there are a number of different approaches within the school that would allow you to explore that particular aspect of international relations. National security, definitely. But one of the questions we might want to ask of you is, what is a nation? We can think of, especially within East Asia, we can think of a number of different examples where we might want to say, is that a nation? Should that be considered a national security issue? And the one that immediately pops into my head is in relation to the ongoing situation in Hong Kong. Hong Kong, not a nation. It is a part of the Chinese state. So then, is the issue of Hong Kong an issue of international relations? Or is it an issue that is about domestic politics within China? And that would be something that we might come back to explore within some of the modules on offer within the school. Building peace, definitely. So we have a number of colleagues working on things like peace building, peacekeeping. Is it necessary to have justice in order to have peace? Do you need to have got all parties to agree to something before you build a peace? Do you need to get everybody around the table, or do you exclude the troublemakers? How have you decided who the troublemakers could be? So we've got a number of different modules available that would explore those questions around peace and peace building. And conflict is particularly interesting. It's interesting that it's come up in green on this slide, because one of the things that I've been looking at in recent years in relation to humanitarian assistance and disaster relief is that where there are issues of conflict, it tends to be a lot more difficult to provide disaster relief or humanitarian assistance. And again, we don't need to look very far in the East Asian region to understand the complexity of how conflict might be a problematic relationship in relation to building peace, or even in terms of understanding national security and what that is. So one of the things that I use when I'm doing my lectures is Menti, so that even if you're in a big group of students within my lectures, you've got an opportunity to engage with what I'm saying and put forward what you think. Even in a lecture situation where maybe traditionally you would think that you're just sitting and listening to somebody else talking. And I know that a number of my colleagues use a number of different mechanisms in order to engage with students throughout a lecture, in order to make sure that you're understanding and enjoying and being able to situate the information that you're being provided with. So I think my last slide is on questions. And again, you can use Menti to ask those questions, but I also know that the team have got a different ways of allowing you to ask questions, both through YouTube and on Zoom. So I might go back to that one slide on what is international relations. And with that, I might open up to any questions that you might have, but I might pass back to our organising team to make sure that I'm heading in the right direction. Thank you very much for your time this morning or this evening, depending on where you are.
Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation, Catherine. We've already got a couple of questions from YouTube, and now I will translate them for you. So the first question, they are all quite related to the employability actually after graduation. So the first one is the student has some working experience in online marketing, and am I eligible for your international relations course? And which course would you recommend in terms of building up a deep level of expertise in this field?
International marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms at undergraduate level or at postgraduate level?
I'm not sure, but I'm guessing he or she is talking about postgraduate level, because this student already has some working experience.
So I might hand over to Scott in terms of eligibility for programs. But what I would suggest is that it's probably a good idea to get in contact with the program director and talk through your own situation, what other qualifications and skills you have, and how you think they might be relevant for your application. Okay. In terms of international marketing, so my approach, maybe predictably, is that increasingly it's going to be important to understand dynamics between states in order to be very effective in the future in terms of international marketing. Mm-hmm. So I would probably be tempted to suggest something like international security studies. Mm-hmm. But if they had a particular interest in a particular region, then you might want to look at, for example, the program on the Middle East, Caucasus, and Central Asia. Mm-hmm. You can get a fuller understanding of what's available on each individual program by looking at the program information on the website. But I would also strongly recommend getting in touch with the director of that program to talk through what your intentions would be, what your objectives might be, how you want to go on and use that in the future, and how would this particular program help you to achieve that. But I'm going to allow Scott to just make any comments on eligibility and the application process.
Sure, thanks, Kath. So what I would encourage is that if you go onto the St Andrews website and head to the International Relations section, you can look over the full span of our courses, both at undergraduate and postgraduate level. On each individual course webpage, there is an entry requirements section, and that will let you know if there is any prior experience required. So, for example, with the program that Kath mentioned, the MLIT in International Security Studies, one of our postgraduate international relations programs, I can see that part of the entry requirement is a background in political science and international relations is strongly encouraged. So I suppose that doesn't say it's absolutely required, but it is encouraged. If you do have any questions, you could always contact the School of International Relations. If it would be helpful, Yusi, I can share helpful links within the chat function. I don't know if you can post those on YouTube as well, so that students could look at these web pages for themselves. Would that be possible?
Yeah, sure. Please.
Yes, Scott, please share the links on the chat box. I'll share that link on the YouTube live.
Perfect. So the first one I'll pop in is our Japan entry requirements, both at undergraduate and postgraduate level. And then the second link I'm going to share is our kind of the international relations webpage, where you can look at all of our various courses. And just a final very helpful link for everybody would be our guidance on how to apply, both for undergraduate and our postgraduate programs.
Thank you very much.
So no doubt if I answer again, if there are further questions, I will probably reference these 3 links.
Thank you very much, Scott and Catherine. 今お答えしていただいたように、例えばバックグラウンドがマーケティングの場合には、先生がまさに今国同士のパワーバランスとかを見るのに一番関係性があるコースなんですが、強いておすすめを申し上げるとすれば、インターナショナルセキュリティ安全保障のコースがより専門性は身につくかと思います。またもし特別な地域にご興味がある場合は、中東に特化したコースだったり、コーカサス、中央アジアの地域に特化したものもあるので、応募前にぜひコースディレクターにやりたいことをご相談してみられると良いと思います。またスコットさんの方から、各国のエントリーリクワイアメントのページのリンクをお送りいただいたので、ご興味がある方はぜひ見てみてください。例えばナショナルセキュリティのエメリットのコースであれば、ポリティカルサイエンスのバックグラウンドがエンカレッジされているっていうような表記なので、あった方がより望ましい場合もありますね。So the next question is, how does the employability rate look like after graduation for PG students?
I don't actually have the figures on the postgraduate employability figures. I believe they're very good. Some of my former students have definitely headed off into work or on to further study to go on and look at some topics at a research level. So to do a MPhil, a Master of Philosophy, or a PhD. But I don't have the figures specifically related to postgraduate graduations.
Thank you.
I can perhaps help here a little bit. Lucy, would it be okay for me to briefly share my screen to show a portion of our website? Yeah?
Yeah, sure. Of course.
So I will share this link with everyone as well. What you can hopefully see now is the University of St Andrews graduate destinations, and that allows you to have a look at, for example, international relations postgraduate taught, and it will break down where students go. So you can see that 58% have gone into full-time employment, 24% employment and further study. I'm just trying to see what other information we provide. It will also give you a list of perhaps employment destinations and the nations that our students have gone to, as well as also further study destinations as well, whether students have progressed on to perhaps a PhD or further postgraduate research degree. So again, I would really encourage students to have a look at this link. I'll just post that into the chat as well.
Thank you so much for the useful link. 今ご共有いただいたように、結構 それらコースの方がどういった進路を歩まれたか、あと研究職に進まれた方のデータも詳細にあるので、ぜひ見てみてください。
Yusi, could
The
I add
next
just
question-
one further thing? On each individual course webpage, there's a section called Your Future, and it will give some specific examples of careers that specific course graduates have gone on to. So that's just something else students can use.
いろんなリソースがありますので、ぜひ見てみられてください。The next question is that, are there any scholarships for Japanese students? Because the scholarships are normally focused on students from maybe lower or middle income groups country.
So we offer a wide range of scholarships, both at undergraduate and postgraduate level. Some of them are focused upon academic, sporting, or musical excellence, and some of them are to do with family and situational background. Something that's really important to remember is that as soon as you submit an application to study with us, you can apply for our scholarships. You don't need to wait until you receive a decision upon your application. So we would encourage students to apply as soon as possible and to check their deadlines. So the deadlines for many of our 2021 entry scholarships are around about now, at the beginning of March. So it's really important to kind of have a look. But just lastly, I don't know of any Japanese specific scholarships, but you would be welcome to have a look at the full list on our website. There's individual guidance for each scholarship. I'll post that in the chat as well.
Thank you very much. 日本人向けに特化した奨学金は特にその日本人だけっていうものはないんですけれども、こちらもウェブサイトにファンディングのページがありますのと、あと、出願された後に結果を待たなくても先に奨学金に応募できますので、早く申し込むのがポイントになります。ちょうど締め切りが3月頃なので、今年出される方はお急ぎください。Thanks for the link. The next question is actually related to deadline. I think most of the students are quite uncertain about the world situation now. So when is the deadline for the application for your September 2021 entry?
So the answer to that depends upon whether they're applying for undergraduate or postgraduate study. If applying for undergraduate study, typically it will be around about the end of June. It depends upon the application method that you use. At undergraduate level, we have rolling admission. So the earlier that you apply, the better. So you should apply as early as possible, but the likelihood is it will be the end of June for undergraduate level. At postgraduate level, from what I can see from our international relations web pages, and I'm not sure if you will have any guidance here, Kath, but some of the programs look to be around about the end of April, whilst others look to be around about the end of August. So in all cases, I would advise checking with the application links that I've passed on before, and for postgraduate level, the individual course web pages. Specifically for postgraduate level, I would encourage students to apply as soon as possible. Just considering if you have any visa concerns, it's better to get the application in earlier rather than closer to the deadline.
Thank you very much. アンダーグラジュエイト学部課程の場合にはUCAS っていう仕組みを通じて出願をするので、留学生の方の場合は6月30日まで受け付けています。で、大学院の方になりますと個別のコースで締め切りが変わってくるんですが、人気のコースですと締め切りがあったり、あと最終デッドラインが8月のコースもあるんですけれども、ビザなどを考えるともうちょっと早く、申し込んだ方がよろしいと思います。 今、Zoom にご参加いただいている皆様も何かご質問があったら、ぜひチャットボックスの方にお送りくださいね。The next question is that, do you have any suitable course for students with journalistic background?
Maybe I'll let you go first, Kath, and then I can maybe see if I have anything to add.
So I would probably repeat what Scott said in a response to a previous question on international marketing, which is it would depend on other things that you have. Journalism would be relevant to a number of our different courses, but it's all about, do you meet the essential requirements for entry? And you would get those specifically from the different links that Scott has posted in the chat.
Yeah, that I think I wasn't sure if they were asking if we had any courses based around journalism, but I think you're right, Kath. I think it's about a background in journalism. So absolutely check with the individual course web pages and just make sure that you would meet the entry requirements. Yeah.
Thank you. いくつかジャーナリズムと関連するんですけれども、何よりもやっぱりエントリーリクワイアメントに合っているか、それぞれのコースをちょっと確認していただかないといけないのと、あとちょっと補足なんですけど、アンドリューズのような名門校だと特にGPA だったりアカデミックなエントリーリクワイアメントのボーダーラインが結構厳しいので、高校や大学の成績は高いに越したことがないですね。あとそうですね、今いただいている質問はここにあるんですが、他に何か聞きになりたいことございますかね、皆さん。Can I ask a question on behalf of our students, the questions we are often asked? Since the educational system in Scotland is slightly different from that of England, so we are often asked by students what's the difference between MLit and MA or MSc degree. Also the difference between MLit and MPhil, because they both sound slightly higher than a normal MA or MSc.
Yeah, so I don't, Kath, would you like me to take this one or?
Go for it, Scott.
Yeah, so something really important to note is that at undergraduate level, we offer a Faculty of Arts qualification and a Faculty of Science qualification in the main. It's the easiest way to understand. For the Faculty of Arts, we call it Master of Arts, MA, and for the Faculty of Science, BSc at undergraduate level. At the ancient universities in Scotland, we call the undergraduate arts qualification MA. It's equivalent to a BA elsewhere. It's just a historical title. And because we call the undergraduate arts qualification MA, that's part of the reason why we call the postgraduate arts qualification MLit. And then, of course, at postgraduate level, you'll have the MSc. So I would say that that's your two flagship postgraduate level qualifications in the arts and science faculties. Now, again, Kath, forgive me if I'm speaking out of line here, but in my eyes, an MPhil tends to be a 2-year program, the first year being largely taught and the second year focused upon research, with the idea being that it's a bridging gap between master's level study and potential PhD study. And just to kind of, you know, if anybody would like some further information, I'll post a link again in the chat to an explanation of our qualifications.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is that the MPhil is mostly research focused. So you produce a longer piece of research. The taught programs that you are taught tend to be focusing you on research rather than providing you with sort of the programs that I've been talking about. And it is often a bridge to going on to do a PhD.
Yeah. Again, sorry, the only thing I would add is at undergraduate level in particular, it's different from what you would find in England, because English undergraduate courses tend to be 3 years. Ours tend to be 4 years long because of our flexible degree structure. So if a student applied for international relations at undergraduate level, in their first and second year, they'd likely be taking up to 3 subjects all equally. So they could do international relations and pick up something like history and Spanish. They can do other subjects as well, in short.
As mute. まずスコットランドの場合、大学学部が4年間で、イングランドだと3年間なんですが、さらにセントアンドリューズ大学の場合、古代の1400年代からある歴史ある大学なので、通常学部課程だと BA、BSc って呼ぶのに、なんでしょう、日本で言うと文系の学士はスコットランドの場合だとマスター・オブ・アーツって本来であればイングランドとかで大学の修士課程につくようなタイトルが、つきます。でイングランドより1年間授業が長い分よりフレキシブルにいろんな選択授業が取れて、例えば国際関係プラス歴史学だったり国際関係プラス、スペイン語というようにいろいろ組み合わせることができます。でよくコースタイトルで例えば MA とか MLIT あと MPhil のコースを見たりされることがあると思うんですが、 MLIT の場合はもう少しリサーチ風でより長い論文を書いたり、あとちょっと独立的な研究が増えたりしますね。一方で MPhil の場合は2年数が、多くなっていて、PhD に進む前のブリッジングの、ディグリーとしてちょっと大学院と博士課程の間のになっています。Thank you very much. I think, we're running out of time now. Oh, thank you for the comment. Yeah. Thank you very much for joining today. Informative and stimulating and amazing. Yeah, actually Scottish universities are super popular this year because because of COVID. So we are seeing more and more people applying to St. Andrews. Yeah.
Fantastic. Really great.
Excellent. Thank you very much for all of your help this morning, everybody making this happen. And I really am impressed. Simultaneous translation of question and answers is just so impressive. And I will hope to be teaching some of you in the years to come if you're joining us from on the YouTube channel or on Zoom this morning.
Yeah, I would agree. Thank you so much, Yusi and Deepika. Thank you so much for your help. I agree. Very impressive translation. And thank you so much to everybody that's attended. As a final comment from myself, if you have any questions on application to the university, please contact my colleagues and I in admissions. We would be delighted to help. So I've just posted our email address. So if anything's unclear, let us know.
Great. Thank you so much, both.
Thank you so much all for your valuable time today.
皆様、今日はご参加した。最後にアドミッションズの、メールアドレスをポストしていただきましたので、またこちらメールでもお送りさせていただきます。セントリーズ、本当に学生満足度も非常にイギリストップで大人気の大学なので、ぜひチャレンジして応募してみてください。Thank you very much and hopefully see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.